We have something of a tradition, certainly in Western thought, of separating rational ideas, rational concepts from emotions and feelings. That sort of dualistic divide goes way back, but it's certainly an intuitive part of most people's thinking. We assume that correct thought, grown-up thought, organized thought is completely divorced from emotions and completely divorced from feelings, and has to be divorced in order to be completely rational. Emotions and feelings are something to be suppressed or to be ignored. It reminds me of the line in The African Queen where I can't remember the name of the actress, where she turns to Humphrey Bogart and says, "Nature, Mr. Allnut, is that which we must rise above," or words to that effect. And it seems to me the same thing applies to emotions and to feelings, that we assume that rational thought is superior to emotional thought. That's been questioned quite a bit of late, particularly by someone called Antonio Damasio in his writing in The Feeling of What Happens in Descartes' Error, and most recently in Looking for Spinoza. And in his writings and his lectures, he distinguishes a number of features. He distinguishes feelings from emotions, which is a really important distinction, I think, to make. Feelings, he says, are the conscious perception of emotional states. In other words, one can have emotional states, but not be aware of them. When one becomes aware of one's emotional state, that's when one has feelings. So the things that we have, those feelings that we have, happiness and sadness and fear and pain and so on, those are conscious awarenesses of emotions, which otherwise would be non-conscious. Now the emotional states, he says, and he's really writing in the shadow of William James and other psychologists here, he says emotions originate in the body itself, in the actual visceral physical responses of the body to situations. And these come first. We don't have an emotional, a sort of cognitive emotional response, and that is then echoed in the body. No, he says, and also James says, the reactions of the body come first, and their instantiation is represented in cognition as an emotion, and then latterly in Damasio, this emotion is represented and interpreted as a feeling. So, for example, the bodily responses, which we might eventually call fear, might originate, we could start from a number of stimuli, but in terms of bodily expression, that might be a blanching of the skin, a cooling of the skin, maybe a sweating of the palms, a racing of the pulse, a whole set of somatic responses to a particular situation. And it's that whole set of responses which conditions or which characterizes a particular emotional state. When our conscious mind somehow perceives that emotional state, that's when it adopts a feeling, and we call that feeling fear.